Welcome to the first video in the 5-part series building the Super Combo Dominator TREX 470LM. The M stands for metal parts. There is another model that's coming out with composite material. Presented by Enterprise Hobby. We're the main distributor for a line in the United States and Canada. And you can visit our website at enterprisehobby.com for the latest information. You can also check out the team page and find out where our team will be flying and the different members, who they are, and videos watching them fly at the different fun flies across the country. This is the first part, so here's the instruction manual that came in the box. And as always, the first page here is the introduction and safety notes. So you want to take a moment to read through it. Align's going to thank you for purchasing the product. We appreciate you purchasing the product and flying Align. You have the safety notes here, which you should read through, and all the safety notes here. It's a good idea to refresh them yourself if you haven't, lately, because sometimes we make mistakes. The second page, or third page actually, you're going to need a transmitter, whether you are going to, which type you're going to use. You're going to need a receiver because the kit doesn't come with a receiver. You have the battery right here. I'm going to be using the Align battery. It's a 45C battery. It's 1450 milliamps, and Align makes a very good battery. They're very powerful. I've had no problem whatsoever with them. I'm using the 5200 milliamp battery in the 700X, and I've been pleasantly surprised on the performance. And I also use the batteries in my 450s. Actually all the helicopters now, because I've changed them because they do perform so well. So this battery is readily available. It is nice for the weight and balances the helicopter very nicely. The other part, you need a pitch gauge, digital. Here's the Align digital pitch gauge. It's reference. You can pick up this from any of the Align dealers. Also a multifunction tester that Align makes. It has a tachometer, servo tester, tests the battery and displays how much total battery is left, and then each one of the individual cells. It's a multifunctional tester, very good product by Align. Then you're going to need some tools. You need a Phillips screwdriver, a cutting knife, so I have my X-Acto knife here, Phillips screwdriver. I'm using this tool by Align. We do offer it, and the dealers offer it. It comes with 3mm, the 2.5, a 2, and then a Phillips screwdriver attachment, and it just snaps in by pushing here. It snaps in and out of place. Very nice tool. I also have the other tool that Align offers, which I've used before and I've had for quite a while. I have red Loctite. I am going to red Loctite the balls onto the blade grips and also the swash and the tail. That's where I use the red Loctite. I'm not taking them off. They're going to stay there for quite some time. Then you need some CA. I have the CA. I'll pull it out later. And you need the other thread lock, which Align offers in this pack right here. Page 4 lists the different items, what you're going to need, the grease, things of that nature, and then which each one of the bags are here, the motors and different pieces. We turn to page 5, and on page 5 we're going to assemble the head. So it's assembly section. We're going to need parts bag number 470HH1. So that's this bag right here. There's no 1 on it, but it is the head, the swash, and the main shaft, and the screws that are associated with the head. And then we're going to need to open up this bag, which is 470HZ. This has odds and end pieces, and one of the main pieces is in here, which is the Loctite. It's a different color, and it's red, but it's not the red Loctite that you normally would use. So we have that. I also have the blue Loctite from another Align kit that I'll use, or you can just use the regular Loctite made by Loctite. I would suggest using original Loctite if you're not using the Align. I've had problems in the past with some of the off-brand Loctites, they don't really dry properly and it becomes mushy and it doesn't really lock the screw in place. So I'd recommend always using the Loctite brand if you're not using the line. So I'm going to use the red Loctite here, and I'm going to use the blue Loctite, and if I don't have enough in this container, then I'm going to go ahead and pull out my regular blue Loctite. There isn't really anything else in here that we need. There's some zip ties, blade grip holders, Velcro for the battery tray, and some odds and ends small screws, but I don't believe we're going to need those at this time, so I'm going to set these aside right here. And we're going to open up this piece. And so here's the main shaft. Here's the screws for the main shaft as far as going through the head and also the bottom through the gears. Here's the swash, and there's the head. As always, I have my container right here of denatured alcohol. That's what I'm going to use to clean all the screws and all the links. So I'm going to open up the swash, and you'll probably find that these are just finger tight, and I'm going to drop them in. And this is going to remove any grease or debris that's on the threads, allowing the Loctite to have a really good bond. So there's that. So I've got that done. Now I'm going to take my Loctite, place it here, have my paper clip, and I'm going to shake it up. You want to always make sure you shake the Loctite. Now we'll go ahead and install each one of the links. I always apply the Loctite directly to the threads. You just want just enough, and I clean it off there, make sure that it just gets in the threads. And be careful when you start these so you don't cross thread anything and strip the actual swash. Make sure it's nice and snug. So we'll set this aside. It's going to go ahead and dry and set up. Now we're going to work on the head. And I'm going to take these off here. And sometimes on the larger models there's a little tiny little washer spacer on the outside. There's not one because of the type of bearing that they're using here. So you don't have to worry about that on this model. And these are even smaller. So I've got to get a small Allen wrench for that. And we're going to set these right here so that I assemble them back the proper way. Alright, we're ready to reassemble the head. So I'm going to do the feathering shaft first. And I have the parts laid out here. I didn't take out the other bearing that's marked in, but each one of the bearings here, and I don't know if you can see it or not, I'll put it up there. It does say out on this side. And the other side of the thrust bearing, which is inside, says in. And then on the actual bearing itself, you have a concave piece. Hopefully you can see that. Versus the rounded. The rounded side where you can see less of the balls goes to the outside. The part that has a groove where you can see the majority of the balls, that goes to the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and take my grease. And first I'm going to get my screws ready. Oops. Did this wrong here. I'm actually going to put the Loctite on the inside here because I want the Loctite to be pushed down and not travel back up through the screw into the thrust bearing. Alright, so we have that done. Don't put it on the end of the screw because you're screwing to the metal part. And if you do, if you put it on the screw itself, the Loctite's going to travel up the screw. It usually gets inside the thrust bearings. A lot of times makes it hard, dries, and then the head doesn't, these don't turn as easy. So I went ahead and put it inside the actual feathering shaft. And now what I'm going to do is put grease here. The one that's marked out. Put that in this grip right here. Same thing here. Get it packed full of grease. Take the one that's marked out, place it on that side right there. Clean off the extra grease that's here. That side's ready to go. All right, we have them greased. The Loctite's in the feathering shaft. I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on the outside of the feathering shaft here. It's going to make it easier to slide in. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the spacers back on. If you're asking how they go, the shiny side out, the dull side in of the little washers, or the flat side. And we're going to gently press this on. And we're going to gently put this side on here, making sure that I'm not pushing the one-way bearing out. Start to screw. And start to screw on this side. And then snug both of them down, and that'll give a chance for the Loctite to dry in there. There we go. All right, now we don't need the grease anymore. So I'm gonna put that over here. have the balls. This is going to require red Loctite. That's what I'm going to use. We're just going to need a little bit. Make sure you do not over tighten these. That's assembled. Now I'm going to go ahead and put these little itty bitty screws back in, and I am going to put Loctite on them, but I'm going to do just a little bit of Loctite, and it's going to be blue. There's two done. Now these screws and putting the arms on, I'm not going to put them on yet because what happens is when the Jesus bolt goes through here, and then when you tighten down the two anti-phasing arms, they're going to pinch together and they need to be Loctited. So if I put the screws in now, it's not going to really serve a purpose until I get to the next step. And we're now on page 6, and you can see that I'm going to go ahead and now the swash is all put together. I kind of skipped ahead because I did the swash here in the first place. So we're done with that part at the top of page 6. We've already taken care of the head, we've taken care of the arms, and now we're going to go ahead and put it on the main shaft, install it on the main shaft. So I want to go ahead and open this bag right here, which is the main shaft. And it's pretty well greased. Take that off. And open up Alright, the two larger ones that have a collar on them, these are for the blade grips, so they're going to go through here. And then the smaller one with a smaller nut is going to go to hold the head on. So I'm going to go ahead and place the head in. The line goes into the helicopter. So you see the part that says line. And before we do that, make sure you put on the swash. Screw goes through the flat side. On the other side, you will see a cutout for the bolt, or I'm sorry, for the nut. Go ahead and I hold the nut into the cutout, because if you tighten the screw down and the nut turns, it's going to mar up the edges, and it's going to create problems down the road for you when you go ahead and change and try to do things. As far as all right, finger tight. Now, snug that down good. Now we're going to go ahead and put the arms on. And if you look at this, there's a little raised side and a flat side. So they're opposite. Raises on this side, flat. You spin it, raises on this side, flat. The actual screw is going to go through the raised side, and the threads are on the back side. Okay? So I'm going to be very careful when I put the Loctite on, because I can't really get to the other side as far as putting the Loctite into the actual threads themselves. So the line, the word align goes across. Put the screw through. And all I'm doing is finger tight. I don't want to tighten them yet, because I want to tighten one on one side, then a little bit more, and flip back and forth between the two sides, so that I don't tighten one and it pulls the aluminum in one direction. Okay, finger tight. Now I'm going to go over here, put a little bit of a quarter turn on there, come back to this side, just a little bit of a turn, come back, just a little bit of a turn. And again here, you don't want to over tighten these, because if you over tighten them, you're going to strip them. So there we go, we have the head assembled now. So we have this head assembled. The next step is we want to go ahead and put together our links. So we have this right here, and this is parts bag 470HZ1. So it's all the links. I'll lay those out. So we have 3, which will be used later on for from the swash to the servo. We have 2 now that we're going to do. And take these links and put them here. Line's included this nice little tool. All you have to do is put the link in here and it allows you to hold it. But I'm going to use the drill method. and you use this tool. All right. All right, I have one more piece to do to install as far as the linkage rod goes. However, I wanted to point something out in the manual that's incorrect. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner, it says, make sure the linkage rod M2 is completely fastened with the main rotor grip arm integrated control link and apply a little amount of T22 thread lock. Do not follow that step. That is incorrect. The line's going to take it out of the manual. Thread lock of any kind is not to be installed on the plastic pieces. So you have the plastic ball link and a metal piece here. So do not apply any of the T22 to this piece, as it's just not correct. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up in here. Okay, they're both the same length. So we completed the head assembly for the 470L. We're going to go ahead and I'll end the video now for the first part, and then we'll come back for the next part. The next part is going to cover the frame assembly. I'll have that one posted next. So that'll be part 2, is the frame assembly, and that'll be starting on page 7. We just finished everything up to page 6. Thank you, and please like us on Facebook. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit enterprisehobby.com for the latest information concerning products and releases and videos of the pilots that fly for us. We appreciate you flying a line, and thank you very much.